From the resource-abundant core of Niger to the arid expanses of Mali, the surge in military coups has plunged the region into turmoil, raising significant alarms about the stability, governance, and very existence of democracy in these nations. The hopeful optimism that followed the wave of democratic transitions in the late 20th century has dissipated, replaced by a lingering sense of déjà vu, reminiscent of the turbulent history of coups and authoritarian rule in the region. A pivotal moment in this troubling trend occurred in 2020, when the military in Mali ousted a democratically elected government, marking the beginning of a series of similar events. This initial coup in Mali, which seemed like an isolated incident at first, soon sparked a chain reaction of power seizures within a year in Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Chad. What began as a single coup quickly escalated into a widespread regional crisis, revealing the fragile state of democracy in these countries. The situation was further exacerbated by last year's coup in Niger, underscoring the vulnerability of the democratic fabric in the region. However, these military takeovers are not merely acts of power-hungry leaders. They are deeply rooted in a complex web of grievances, including widespread poverty, dissatisfaction with governance, rampant corruption, and a general sense of insecurity. In the Sahel, in particular, the persistent jihadist insurgencies have severely eroded public trust in governments, making military intervention seem like an increasingly viable option. In response to these challenges, the military leaders of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali have formed a close alliance to protect their respective nations. This collaboration, known as the Alliance of Sahel States, was solidified when these countries withdrew from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, adding another layer of complexity to the already volatile situation. Shortly after Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali announced their departure from ECOWAS, Burkina Faso's military leader, Ibrahim Traore, began discussing his next move, which could potentially disrupt the region further. In today's discussion, we will explore the next steps these three countries are planning to take, as well as France's potential strategies to counteract these developments. Stay tuned until the end of the video to gain a comprehensive understanding of the unfolding situation. Captain Ibrahim Traore, who has been at the helm of Burkina Faso since the September 2022 coup, hinted in a recent interview that his country might soon abandon the CFA franc as part of a broader effort to sever all remaining ties that he views as remnants of colonial subjugation. Captain Traore also made it clear that Burkina Faso has no intention of rejoining ECOWAS. The governments of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have repeatedly shown that they prioritize their autonomy over short-term expediency, having already expelled French troops from their territories and withdrawn from the UN mission in Mali. Their stance on the CFA franc, a currency pegged to the euro, seems steadfast, even though analysts warn that abandoning the CFA franc would be a far more challenging and risky move than leaving ECOWAS, a move that many see as bold, if not reckless. In November of the previous year, the finance ministers of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger announced that they were considering the creation of a new monetary union. Senior officials from these nations have voiced varying degrees of support for abandoning the CFA franc, and they have proposed the establishment of a joint stabilization fund and investment bank, among other initiatives. Abdourahmane Tiani, the military leader of Niger, stated in a televised interview that giving up the CFA franc would symbolize a declaration of sovereignty and a critical step in freeing the country from what he describes as French colonization. Abandoning the West African Monetary Union, which currently includes 8 member states, and adopting a new currency would further isolate Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, who have collectively branded their new alliance as the Alliance of Sahel States. The West African CFA franc, a currency currently utilized by 3 key countries, along with 5 others in the region, is pegged to the euro. However, many critics argue that this currency is a lingering vestige of French colonial dominance, symbolizing a lack of economic autonomy. Recently, Burkina Faso and Niger declared their intention to withdraw from the G5 Sahel force, a regional coalition formed in 2014 with French support to combat jihadist activities. This move follows Mali's earlier departure from the coalition last year after a military coup, leading to the formation of a new alliance among these Sahel states. The aim of this new coalition is to strengthen their collective security and boost development. The military leaders of Burkina Faso and Niger have openly criticized the G5 Sahel, claiming that it has failed in its mission to enhance regional security and instead serves the interests of foreign powers, particularly France, their former colonial ruler. Their commitment now lies with their newly formed confederation. However, abandoning the CFA franc involves far more than merely printing new currency. The process would require the establishment of a new central bank, which would be tasked with overseeing the seamless transition from the CFA franc, setting a new monetary policy, and addressing the complex issue of managing approximately $4.6 billion in regional bonds currently denominated in CFA. The CFA franc, a key point of contention in discussions about sovereignty and economic development in French-speaking Africa, is divided into two denominations, one for West Africa and another for Central Africa. Supporters of the CFA franc argue that its peg to the euro brings stability and helps to maintain low inflation rates, which in turn fosters a favorable environment for investment and economic growth. Additionally, the CFA franc's stability provides predictability and reduces financial risks for businesses, especially in comparison to other African currencies, which tend to be more volatile. Moreover, the French treasury plays a significant role by guaranteeing the convertibility of the CFA franc into euros, thereby facilitating international trade and financial transactions. This guarantee provides a sense of security and minimizes currency exchange risks for both exporters and importers. On the other hand, critics view the CFA franc as an outdated mechanism of French colonial control, which hampers economic progress. They argue that the arrangement forces participating nations to keep a portion of their foreign reserves with the French treasury, effectively limiting their economic sovereignty. The CFA franc system also involves high transaction costs, including the requirement to route all exports and imports through the French treasury. This can impose a heavy burden on businesses, particularly smaller enterprises, and undermine their competitiveness in the global market. Despite these challenges, the military leaders of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali are confident in their decisions and enjoy considerable support from their people. They see tremendous potential in their alliance for the future of West Africa. By pooling their resources, expertise, and aspirations, these nations aim to tackle shared challenges, advance regional integration, and achieve collective goals that might be difficult to accomplish individually. The aspirations for regional integration and shared goals among Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger offer a glimmer of hope for a more peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable future for the Sahel region. Through their collaborative efforts, these countries hope to overcome the challenges they face and create a better life for their citizens. However, the decision to abandon the CFA franc could present significant challenges. The transition to a new currency might result in initial volatility, which could lead to inflation and potentially deter investment. Depending on the exchange rate of the new currencies, their exports might become more competitive in the short term. But devaluation could also drive up the cost of imports, thereby increasing inflation and putting pressure on consumers. The potential departure from the CFA franc by some West African nations could exacerbate already strained relations with the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, possibly obstructing regional collaboration and impeding economic integration efforts. These countries would need to explore new alliances with other nations or international institutions to secure financial and technical support. Within ECOWAS, there is growing concern among member states about the possible repercussions of such an exit, with fears that it could lead to regional instability and economic disruption. Leaders are urging these countries to reconsider their decision, highlighting the advantages of staying within the framework of regional integration and warning about the uncertainties and risks associated with adopting independent currencies. Countries like Senegal and Ivory Coast, which have reaped the benefits of the CFA franc's stability, approach this issue with caution. While they acknowledge the necessity for dialogue and potential reforms, they remain wary of the implications of a drastic shift. International bodies such as the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank have also weighed in on the matter, advocating for well-planned transitions and underscoring the importance of maintaining sound economic policies and regional cooperation during this critical period. It's important to remember that this isn't the first time a country has contemplated abandoning its currency. Historical precedents, such as Muammar Gaddafi's vision for a united Africa, come to mind. Gaddafi was a strong proponent of African unity, advocating for a continent with its own currency, a unified army, and a single passport. His ambitious plan included the introduction of a gold-backed dinar to liberate African economies from the dominance of the US dollar. However, his defiance of Western interference in African affairs, along with his efforts to safeguard the continent's natural resources from what he called Western looters, ultimately led to his downfall. Gaddafi's regime was marked by accusations of human rights violations and repression, which played a significant role in the uprising against him. Similarly, recent attempts have been made to undermine leaders like Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, with reports suggesting that a member of his force was offered €25 million to betray him. Given these developments, one might wonder if some of today's African leaders could meet a fate similar to Gaddafi's. However, it's essential to recognize that the motivations behind the decision to leave the CFA franc zone are primarily rooted in economic concerns and aspirations for greater monetary sovereignty, rather than a desire for violent upheaval. During the ministerial conference between France and the Economic and Monetary Community of Central Africa, CEMAC, on April 25, 2023, the future of the CFA franc was a key topic of discussion. The French government continues to view the guarantee and convertibility of the CFA franc as fundamental to the region's economic stability. While France remains open to discussions and ideas from CEMAC regarding improvements in monetary cooperation, the debate in West Africa, especially in the context of recent military takeovers, reveals a tension between the desire for autonomy and self-determination and the perceived benefits of the existing system's stability. For the countries considering a departure from the CFA franc zone, the drive to gain more control over their economic future is a powerful motivator. Yet, the potential economic benefits and international support associated with remaining in the CFA franc system cannot be ignored. The success or failure of their decision to exit the CFA franc zone will depend on several critical factors, including the implementation of responsible transition plans, effective economic governance, and sustained regional cooperation. France and the broader international community could play a constructive role in this transition by offering support and expertise rather than pressuring these nations to revert to the status quo. The future of the CFA franc and its impact on West Africa remains uncertain, but a strong desire for autonomy is propelling this period of change. The outcomes will be shaped by the decisions of these countries, the region's response, and the broader international context. This is not just a technical economic issue, but a pivotal moment in West African nations' journey towards greater autonomy and self-reliance. As this situation continues to evolve, we will keep you updated on the latest developments. Do you think more African countries will soon follow this path? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.